My Gavan and Melonine, and well met indeed. I'm Arachir Galadurthan, and welcome back to Age of Empires 2 as we continue charting the course of Kaelin and Mai's rise through the Tournament of the Swan. The tournament was set up to promote the Discord channel connected with my YouTube channel, and it took place in October through to December of 2021, if you're wondering. Right, we are actually now on to semi-final 1. So, yes, you heard that correctly. There are only 2 games before the semi-final. There weren't that many competitors. But this is semi-final number 1 between myself and Kaelin and MKM McLeod and Cyan. And we shall run through the competitors. So, first of all, this is their choice of map. This is their home map. I should have mentioned when I did some of these videos earlier that the home map doesn't actually have to be fixed. So you didn't have to choose it at the start of the tournament and then that was it. You're stuck with that map right till the end. The home map you could change every single round if you wanted to. Well, so from round to round it could update and it could change. Similarly with the factions that you choose, your team can only choose that faction once per round, but can play them again. So I'm the Lithuanians in this one, which would mean I can't be the Lithuanians in Game 2, and then if there was a Game 3, I couldn't be them in Game 3. But equally, Kaelin couldn't be them in Game 2 or 3 either. So in essence, if it went the full distance, you needed 6 different nations that you were going to play. So those are the rules. So as mentioned, I am the Lithuanians. I am grey. I am always grey, so you can see who I am. I just like playing grey. I appreciate that visually it may not be the best, but I like it. Lithuanians here in the southwest. My ally Kaelin this time is blue, and he's playing as the Mongols, a very powerful nation, of course. And he's away to my east, gathering as many turkeys as can be found. Away to the far north is Cyan, who's playing as the Italians, and you may already be able to tell from the placement of his houses that Cyan is the handicap player to McLeod. And so this is the first team that we're going to meet where one player is really very good and the other player is potentially really a newcomer. And that's the phrasing I shall use. So McLeod is Cyan's ally, and did I mention Cyan's the Italians, as I already mentioned, and Cyan is the Malay. So it's going to be an interesting development indeed. The Malay elephants are a big thing about them, and hordes, of course, they get their gold-free two-handed swordman, so they can go for that as always an option available to them, so going heavy on food. And they'll need to go heavy on food because the other thing the Malay frequently do is lots and lots and lots of elephants. So we'll see if that's the plan today. You know, he's even hoarding deer back. That's the level we've now arrived at. People that actually take the time to micro their deer back to their base. Something that I could never be bothered to do. Ugh, the amount of stress that would have to go through for that. This time, I actively build upon the mistakes of the previous games, and I start walling myself in. He can be taught! And we build a wall, the glorious Lithuanians. If you are unfamiliar with the factions, you may not be, but I'm going to tell you anyway. The Lithuanians are a cavalry faction, and their cavalry is all the better for gathering relics. Every relic, up to 4, improves our cavalry by 1 additional attack point. So we can potentially get very heavy-hitting paladins, and that's generally speaking what we're famed for. We also get a little bit of an early start bonus with extra food at the start. Alas, you can't see because we're Gaia. Shame. The Mongols, of course, very good. The reason why he's hoarding all the turkeys is because their bonuses early doors primarily come from gathering from herdables. So that's what they're always going to want to do, and hunting is a boost for them as well, so he's going to try and get as much food as possible from that. But in these kind of games, you're always going to get as much food as possible from things around you. And it's just basically a race to see what we can do. Now, it's been a long time since we actually played the tournament, and I probably should have recorded these closer to the time. If not for it, would have saved me the ball ache of having to downgrade my game, which took me a while to get to work, but we're here now. So, Kaelin has sent in some scouts to go and harass Cyan, but you'll note Cyan's score dropping already. The one scout went over, but the houses they're denying his farm placement is an interesting one. It's can McLeod be good enough to make up for the difference of Cyan's there? But McLeod has rushed straight through to the castle age. Second town centre going down immediately. We're only 15 minutes in normal time, and he's got that second town centre. Kaelin moving in to do whatever he can to deny McLeod. Taking the strategy here, looking into our brains a little if you'd like, we took the strategy here that Cyan would be so new of a player that we should in essence ignore him and try and both focus McLeod. on the hope and the belief that if Cyan is left alone, he still won't be able to do anything anyway. So that's the tactic. And you'll note that Kaelin at the moment is the only one actually following through with that. I've put down some stables as well, and I'm going to try and assist. But Kaelin at the moment is the one trying to deny McLeod his leveling up. His booming. McLeod is the plan, the strategy, as you can see, is to gather as many resources and try and overwhelm one of us before we can do enough damage to him. He's got some spearmen out now to counter the scouts, and at this point, I then send in as a lone scout. What can my scout cavalry do? Absolutely nothing. But we have got the walls, remember. This time we have actually walled ourselves in. We will be reasonably okay for the time being. I'm pootering along in the feudal age, but I am just about to hit castle. So Kaelin's already at castle. McLeod obviously was at castle a long time ago. And I'm following on just a little after. Cyan still in the feudal age as well, but with very little chance that he's going to be going up to castle anytime soon. He's walling himself in, but not taking advantage of the tree line. There's a lot of things about this that if you're looking at Cyan's gameplay and you're thinking, I don't see what's wrong with that, then pat yourself on the back and say, welcome to the beginners category. I know that sounds a little rude, but Cyan would agree as well. And that was very much the plan with the tournament. The best were paired with the lower tier players, and the medium tier players paired with medium tier players. McLeod now fully into his boom. He's got a nice little lumberjack camp up there. He's got farms around the 2 of the 3 town centres. He's still going on the berries, and he's just hoarding as many resources as humanly possible. The 4th town centre now being dropped as well. Kaelin in the Castle Age has got a 2nd town centre up now, but of course he's been in the Castle Age for a while and has been focusing on troops more than trying to boom further. I'll get some knights out. We're going to try and do at least something with some knights. Obviously I've got the monastery up, so my knights can get a little boost. A little boosty boost. There we go. They get their 1 extra attack bonus. Take out the spearmen real quick. The villagers that we do manage to get are instantly put into town centres, and our knights are quite quickly, owing to my mismanagement, cut down. We pull to the back there for some bizarre reason and decide to start wasting ourselves on a stable. So my knight rush... rush. I do myself such a grave overservice. My knight attack doesn't go anywhere. McLeod now starting to put all of that power that he focused on the boom is now going back toward military might. And my knights are finally dealt with by the battle elephant of the Malay. Alas and alack. Cyan sending out a few little scouts, but still not too much of a challenge coming from over there. He's still not on his way to Castle Age, and he's putting down a watchtower. He has been walled in himself by Kaelin, so Cyan doesn't have access to our lands now. For him to come through to us, he's got to go through McLeod and hit my wall there, or he has to go and hit the 2 of Kaelin's walls. So we will get an early warning if Cyan is on the way. Also, because of the way that we are positioned, you'll note Kaelin and I are considerably closer than Cyan and McLeod. That gives us a little bit of a boost. But McLeod now is going to boom behind walls, and he puts a castle down on the edge of his base there. Walls up his northern side so that Kaelin can't harass him any longer. And he starts hoarding elephants on our borders. At that stage, I take the view that it's probably time to upgrade to some stone walls, and we begin preparing for a siege. And those of you that may have seen my diplomacy footage for the siege of Finabel, you'll note that being under the cosh, I welcome it. Let their forces die upon the walls of my city. We will beat them. So we pop down some stone walls just to cover ourselves, because they're going to get through the palisade very, very quickly indeed. And it's time to start swapping into a barracks, because knights aren't going to do anything against battle elephants. Battle elephants are just better cavalry. They go around to that southern side, hoping that we might have forgotten about that, but I'd already put a wall up there as well. So we're all right. But McLeod is now, much like Caesar in Gaul, he's building a castle around my castle. He's in essence saying, yeah, that's fine. You go behind your walls. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a castle around your castle. But all the while, of course, Kaelin is preparing. Preparing? Gee, that was the chavviest thing I've ever said. He's preparing down there, isn't he? All the while, Kaelin is building up himself and getting ready. I take the opportunity, given the monks that I've trained for the relics, to then go a little further into the monks, and as you know, I captured one of his elephants. Because as you will know, elephants are deeply spiritual creatures, and they love nothing more than whiling away the wee hours discussing the finer points of theology. And the monks were able to tap into that, and these battle elephants decided that actually the time has come for Catholicism. Although we are playing as Lithuania, of course, and they're famous for being pagan for a long time, so maybe they're actually thinking the time has come to dance naked round fires, because isn't that what pagans do? Who knows? Anyway, MacLeod is now moving in for a two-pronged approach. He's got an elephant horde on the north and one in the east, but the eastern side is now defended. Kaelin's Mangudai arrived to assist. And the Mangudai, of course, can kite the elephants for quite a while, but they do break through my palisade there because I didn't upgrade it to stone. My army in the west then moves out to try and stop the castle being built. We've got pikes, although I run them off to chase that elephant, which is foolish, but you'll note how easily the pikes kill the elephants there. We send the monks in to try and capture a few elephants while the knights do some dying for us, but it all denies the castle, and that's all I'm trying to do at the moment. Swan has just hit the castle age himself, and MacLeod has built some buildings in his base, so that if Kaelin does manage to attack Swan, MacLeod's got troops over there. You'll note that at this stage in the scores, even myself, who's underperforming, we still dwarf Swan's score quite considerably. My pikemen dealt with that little southern push, and a castle starts being built behind the line for me. MacLeod is now Imperial, as is Kaelin, and he upgrades the battle elephants to elites. He is going to finish off his castle, and he's got more stables now right outside the wall. Things are looking bleak indeed, but we have still got the Mangudai. We still have that to hold on to. We've still got some monks, and a number of our pikes are still alive as well. And then comes the dreaded trebuchets, the Imperial Age. It's such a boon. But I do manage to get the castle up, which is always nice. And Kaelin's Mangudai horde arrives to shut down the battle elephants on that northern side. Mangudai are a fantastic counter to battle elephants, in my honest opinion. I may not be the greatest Age of Empires caster you've ever seen. I wouldn't call myself a caster. That was said as a joke. But Mangudai, with their speed and obviously their excellent ranged damage, elephants can't hope to catch them. And the Mangudai should make short work of much of that is threatening us. Storming out, tanking the castle fire. Of course, Mangudai do more damage against siege weapons, and they use that to bring down the trebs and then get out before the elephants can stop them. I send the monks in to try and capture one or two, and we manage to succeed. And then the pikes move in to counter those that follow suit. Another elephant falls, but this gap here needs to be plugged. Knowing now that he's going to be up against Mangudai, he shifts into archery ranges and trying to get as many of the skirmishers that he can. I was going to call them spearmen then, but I thought, no, Gallo, come on, you've played this game so much. You know that unit is not a spearman. So I've ended with the words, the skirmishers. Terrible, really. Terrible. He's managed to push through Kaelin's wall in the east, but he doesn't really have any other force for that. That's just what's come out of his two stables there. But MacLeod storming in score, and the rest of us just trying to keep up. The push to defend myself has left me economically behind. And I am not in the Imperial Age. But I have got a second castle up, and as I say, we are going to make him pay. I shall be the rock upon which MacLeod's hopes and dreams shall be dashed. And my Mangudai army ally will sweep in behind their line and deal with them. But if you were a betting man, things are looking a bit bleak. The trebuchets now start bringing down the castle, and the elephant and skirmisher horde moves in. I send in the pikes, they come round the back, and we manage to take down a few of the elephants. The monks also doing some sneaky things, and we capture another elephant. Mangudai being upgraded now. I've still got some knights there. Of course, the knights will make very short work of skirmishers, and that's all we can really hope for. But we do delay MacLeod's advance, and then I send the knights in. I am just about to hit Imperial Age myself now, so we can upgrade our knights to cavaliers. You can see our attack bonus is rising. I don't know how many relics I actually managed to capture in the end. I think only 2 or 3, but still enough to mean that our knights are hitting more heavily than they normally would, particularly against the skirmishers. But it is looking very bleak. Kaelin has a castle in my base, and he's moved some of his villagers to take as many resources as possible on that eastern side. Swan's still just there. MacLeod is now pushing into my line, and some siege then is brought forth to try and stop the skirmishers is the plan. Can we bring down the skirmishers with some siege? We lose our Mangudai almost immediately, and the elephants push through into my town centre with the trebs in support. The castle being taken down. Knights on that northern border. Now, we are putting up a stone wall on that side to stop the skirmishers getting through, but we do lose the castle. But the elephants are all lost in the push. Another Mangonel comes out and takes down some more of the skirmishers. Only 2, that's not great. And then the Mangudai move in and clean up those skirmishers. Of course, skirmishers are a good counter to Mangudai, but you need a critical mass. As with many things in Age of Empires, X unit does counter Y unit, but you need critical mass. And at the moment, Kaelin has way too many Mangudai for that number of skirmishers to really do anything about. And he obviously is very aware of that. MacLeod then using his aggressive harbours to actually fight back and try and build his own walls. Again, continuing with the Caesar in Gaul plan of walling in the enemy's walls. As the elephant hordes then start moving into my base. Scion is now on his way to the Imperial Age, interestingly. And the elephants move through. With the Mangudai gone, my base is left at the mercy of the elephant horde, and the Malay press in. Trebuchets start hitting Kaelin's castle. The bell is called, and the elephants make their way through unchecked. My knights move in and manage to take down some of the Trebs, and then the Mangudai horde comes back, catches some of the elephants out, and with the wonderful kiting skills that the Mongols are able, we once again hold on. The Mangudai keeping the enemy pinned. Kaelin now got onagers of his own out to try and deal with the skirmisher hordes as well, but still no damage coming in on that eastern side. The wall is holding. We upgrade to a barracks. And indeed, we upgrade to many barracks. We decide to abandon our native cavalry routes altogether and just try to spam anything we can that will counter those elephants. We've also now managed to get cavaliers out, so the combined mass of cavaliers and halberdiers, the tide may well just turn. Kaelin moves through to take out the villagers building that castle on our terrain, and MacLeod sees that his hopes and dreams there are gone. My villagers move back to reclaim this lost land, and all the while Scion is still there. He's managed to break through somehow? Did he walk around? I don't know, but he's got a small little army of longswordsmen and Genovesi. Ready to go. Still going with cavaliers, and we've got some halberdiers out as well. Let's pump the speed. You've got to boost it up. You've got to pump it up, sorry. You'll note Kaelin is just training a lot of scout cavalry there. Hussars as they are now. And MacLeod has got skirmishers for days queued up, and I am very much out of resources. They managed to then get that castle up, so our pushback is then halted quite quickly. Kaelin supporting me entirely now. The hussars dealing with the skirmishers as his Mangudai deal with the battle elephants. But it's the castle right on the edge. MacLeod is creeping his way into our base. His score nearly 3 times my own at this stage. I did run my villagers away, so I've got some farming and some lumber in the south there. But of course, we're totally out of gold and stone resources now. And the fight takes place in my base. The Mangudai push back. I then start sending out battering rams to deal with the castle. I haven't got a castle, so I can't trip it down. But I'll bloody well throw my men's heads against the wall if it's needed. The battering rams are upgraded to capped rams, and then the horde of Mongol hussars reaches out and hits back at those skirmishers. The rams keep pressing through, and if all I can add at this moment is rams and halberdiers, then so be it. MacLeod tries to pull back to defend the crossroads from my base in through to his, the choke point of the river there, as the hussar horde keeps pushing through. You'll see from the training queue, I'm going all halberdiers and mostly villagers because our villagers all died. We rebuild our town centre and we keep pushing forward. Our rams have managed to take down some of those forward stables. MacLeod trying to truly surround our base, which is rather disappointing. But let's speed her up again. The hussar horde is met with just slow degradation. Elephants wearing it down, castle fire wearing it down. But the rams in that time, bolstered by the halberdiers within them, are able to wipe out much of MacLeod's forward base on the west, which buys us a bit of breathing room. Scion still just kind of there. He does a little land drop, but not enough to... He doesn't even seem to pay attention to it. But MacLeod is using him to trade as a bare minimum. So gold is becoming a problem for MacLeod, and he's forcing trade with his ally now. My halberdiers start moving through. I'm thinking, if Kaelin can hold that side, if Kaelin can push the elephants back, can I find another way in? And that's the plan. In go the cap rams. The elephants come forward to meet them, and the halberdiers come out to meet them. And the ram horde continues. Onward, my rams, onward! So I'm hitting into the back now with halberdiers and rams. MacLeod then counters with long swordsmen of his own. Because, of course, remember, I don't know if he upgraded it or not, and were this a more pro game, I'm sure I'd be on it. But his longswordmen at this point in the game almost certainly don't cost gold. So they are an excellent addition to his armies. My rams then start hitting in the back of the line, while Kaelin then reinforces the troops that he's lost. I start throwing some bombard cannons into the mix as well, and at the moment all I'm adding to this is my siege. But the Rams manage to take down a town centre, take down the mill. They move out on the farms. MacLeod then starts using villagers to attack the Rams. But Kaelin then moves his troops through the gap as well. Deals with the villagers in that western side. And now the tables seem to be turning. Our forces now hit them at the choke point, and my bombard cannon moves forward to hit the castle. My Rams hitting the buildings behind the front line there, and we're now pushing back on MacLeod quite nicely indeed. Bombard cannon taking down the castle. Kaelin losing a few troops there. The elite karambits start getting called out, probably to try and deal with the bombard cannon, I should think, as Kaelin moves his forces through and starts harassing MacLeod's eco, killing as many villagers and as many farms as possible. My Rams, still in existence, then start moving out to deal with barracks and just any military building we can. At this point, I'm just thinking if we can just gut and cut down any of these military buildings, we can cut their recruitment potential. Then they will be fighting in their own lands, which helps because then the villagers get caught up in the mix. MacLeod very much prepared for that, and he's run his eco away to the far eastern side. Or far northern side, sorry. North, east, south, and west. There's a few archery ranges there that survived, but nothing really coming out of that to worry us. Now, Mongol rams are in the mix. Remember, Mongolian rams are faster than anyone else's, so they're even better. But with the two-handed swordmen, they're a fantastic counter to rams, particularly because they cost no gold. And MacLeod tries to desperately rebuild military in that space that we cleared out. I then get a little horde of cavaliers to assist. And we then put the pressure back on. Taking out buildings one by one, almost assassinating buildings within the base there. The castle going to go down, and then the cavaliers just taking out... I was thinking of houses at this point as well, so I was taking out houses. I thought, let's just try and house him. Let's just keep him thinking of everything that he can possibly think of. We managed to get our paladins up, and MacLeod resigns. There we go. He wasn't able to kill me in time. He wasn't able to kill me quick enough for the advantage he had early doors to pay dividends, unfortunately. And, of course, this is where the handicap really does come in. So MacLeod having Scion as his teammate means that he's got to do the work of, in essence, two people. And I apologise to speak frankly, Scion, but Sion's involvement of the game was next to nothing. So MacLeod had to, in essence, fight both of us on his own, and he desperately tried to push me out. But I don't go down so easily. Statistics-wise, I'll just give you a quick rundown of the screens, because obviously I'd like to do all the rounds in one video. We're already 23 minutes in. Kaelin killing the most there at 608. Scion losing the least, but we've covered that before. Economy-wise, you can see those if you wish. Technology there, Kaelin at 10 minutes to feudal. That's crazy, but MacLeod obviously rushing to castle and getting there before anyone else. Societal, I got 4 captured relics, which means those are the ones I took from him. Which is rather interesting, and there's the end score. So, let's move on then to Game 2. Game 1 went to Gallo and Kaelin. And now, Game 2. Welcome to Game number 2. It's Nomad, of course. Gallo and Kaelin, we chose Nomad again as our home map. Now, let's speed this up while everyone finds their positions. So this time, Gallo is playing as the Italians, because I really like them, and they tend to do relatively well on Nomad. I am, at the moment, going to be setting up down here. I've just put a house, and there's my town centre going down in a terrible position, not using the wood line very well at all. My ally, Kaelin, is away to the west and is building his town centre there. He's playing as the Persians, another cavalry-heavy civ. This time, MacLeod is in blue, and he's playing as the Spanish, and going with what, as I now understand it, because I'm not really into the competitive scene, but as I now understand, is something of a nomad strategy to play as the Spanish for reasons that we may see later on, if he manages to pull it off. But the Spanish are a favoured nomad civ. Scion is playing as the Huns, and Scion building his town centre over there away from the woodline completely. So, MacLeod, Spanish in the north. He's very close to Scion this time, and Kaelin and I are very nearby, but their docks are right next to each other. Now, remember, the main strategy on Nomad, not the main strategy, but something to watch out for on Nomad, is people quite often build warships to stop other people from being able to fish. Fish is so powerful in Nomad that people are normally quite keen to deny everyone else access to it. And MacLeod and Kaelin are certainly people that will actually think of that. MacLeod going very heavily on to wood and getting a lot of fishing ships there. But both of their docks are in the south. MacLeod going east and Kaelin going west. And I'm flooding out from my base here in the centre. Built a small little wall thing there. Not really worth it when you're chopping those trees, is it? But anyway, now that my mind is on walls all the time, I'm just always thinking of walls. So the plan will be very much as before from Kaelin and mine's position. And that is, can I get some archers up? Can we go and harass? And if possible, can we stop MacLeod? Can we take him down? We've now seen that Swan is basically a non-entity. If you'll, again, pardon the frankness of that review. So we need to hit MacLeod and we need to hit him hard. So, MacLeod hits the feudal age before anyone else, but Kaelin and myself are both on our way there. He's building houses all over the place, walling himself a bit, going straight in for a blacksmith, and going what I should imagine is a fast castle. Yep, his market's going down. He's definitely on his way to it.
Yay.
Kaelin is up to feudal, and I'm just about to follow suit myself. Walled in my gold mine over there. That's a lovely little wall, isn't it? And there we go. We go in with the barracks and another house, because why not? But already MacLeod is on his way to the castle age, as expected. A barracks is going down in the interim, going for what I would consider at the moment, and with my limited knowledge, a standard sort of night rush is what I expect he's going to try and do. So that as soon as he hits the castle, yes, there it is. The stables is ready. Right, so Kaelin sent some scouts out to try and stop him, but MacLeod's knights are out. Kaelin is not on his way to the castle age. In fact, no one else is. MacLeod is the only one up. I've gone into archers, and I've gathered some archers there. But MacLeod has rushed forward and is dropping a castle on Kaelin's border. Kaelin sends villagers to build a watchtower to try and deny it, but the castle goes up. And Kaelin is absolutely screwed. He's lost in his town centre. The knight manages one knight and all those villagers, and that's it. Castle drop. He castle dropped him. MacLeod also taking the southern water there, so Kaelin forced to move his troops onto that north-western ridge. I have some archers, but at this point, archers against the castle, what really am I going to do with that? And then MacLeod starts going into conquistadores to deny us everything, because how can you counter conquistadores this early on? That's very much the question. The castle will almost certainly take down that town centre. But Kaelin is in the castle age now, so am I. So we can start doing some real damage. My first thought here is if the Spanish are going to go for conquistadors and go for knights, then I should try and build a castle, and I should try and get Genovese out, because they would be the best counter at this point to the conquistadors, whilst Kaelin now just tries to hold on. So this time Kaelin is acting as the brunt. Can we hold on long enough? That's going to be our question. Why is that green? What am I looking at the screen? Oh, there we are. Scion got the sheep. Scion has built some scout cavalry this time, playing a little bit more aggressively than he did last time. The archers that I did have moved into MacLeod's base to try and kill some villagers, but the villagers just immediately go into the town centres, as you always see, and then some conquistadors come and finish us off. We managed to get a castle, and we managed to get some Genovese out, but Kaelin, well and truly out. He's only just now getting his second town centre up, after not really abandoning that one for a very long time. I don't know if he knows that his villagers are in there. I don't know. I can't imagine there's a world in which it's a viable strategy to dock your villagers and try and outrange a castle. But maybe it is. But MacLeod has him very much over a barrel this time. MacLeod seems to have thought and learnt and guided his actions from the previous game and realised that Kaelin is the threat and has gone for him more than me. My troops then move in on MacLeod again, desperate to try and do something, to try and just stop his villagers. If I can coerce his forces to come back to try and defend his eco, then we might be all right. And it's at this moment that MacLeod then shows again another wonderful strategy that pro players use to just laugh at us meagre nothings, is he offers up one conquistador as a sacrifice to try and distract my forces, and it works long enough that I do lose my entire army, despite my troops really should theoretically win that. We get down to Siege Workshop to try and press. I'm just trying to put pressure on him. In my mind, Kaelin's base is gone. There's no point me trying to counter that castle. And in all the time that I'm forcing my troops over there, MacLeod might just run around the side and hit my base. It's much better to push straight forward and hit MacLeod at home. And that's exactly what I try to do. It buys Kaelin time to rebuild, move his town centre elsewhere. Kaelin's able to even send some knights back. So if we just ignore this area, just let that castle be nothing. Let that be a waste of 650 stone if we are able to. And try to rebuild over here. We put up an archery range. We've got a Genovese and we've gone into crossbows again. And then MacLeod brings forth a Mangonel. And the Mangonel makes very short work of the rams that I have. And of course now my archers don't want to go anywhere near that. But we do manage to get a castle up on the border. But now we've got a load of archers versus a Mangonel. The archers move in to try and stop Cyan, but at this point, Cyan, much unbeknownst to me and completely unexpectedly, has actually built a military, and this time decides he's going to play the game. And it counters my forces rather well. My castle then gets nowhere near being built as the conquistadors move in and just make very short work of that. All of my archers are killed off by, again, my own mismanagement, as MacLeod then forces the issue on Kaelin again and builds another castle next to his second town centre. At that point, Cyan then hits my base, and his scout cav managed to kill some of my villagers. Only a few before the castles do take them down, but still, it's a disruption. The knights are taking out my archery range there, and Cyan builds his own castle to stop any future raids on him, while MacLeod has my forward base very much over a barrel. Kaelin has then forced to push back. He tries to build a castle to defend his third starting town centre, but this time it's very, 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 very bleak. MacLeod has us completely over a barrel. He takes out my little forward base, mining Kaelin's gold. Castle up there on that town centre. He puts down a siege workshop to try and deal with the castle. Cyan then comes back to my base. Now, I managed to get my Genovese out to stop them, and we do kill some. Obviously, Genovese are fantastic against cavalry. You don't really want to go up against them with just cavalry, but it's whether or not it's all a little too late. MacLeod having total dominance over Kaelin's base there, but he hasn't pushed in on the castle yet, but MacLeod running cavalry round the back, just seeking out wherever Kaelin tries to go. Kaelin sends a little knight over to help me, but Cyan once again runs around the back, denies my town centre, and kills a couple of villagers. My cavalry and my Genovese go back, and Kaelin calls it a day. So we lose. And that very much apparently is indeed the Spanish play. Because of how quickly they can build buildings, you get a couple of knights to go and just clear the way, and then you just castle drop them. And in a nomad game, a castle drop is even more of a blow than in other games. And we lose quite handily. MacLeod taking every single top spot that you can imagine. 81 units killed. Now, I did kill 54, but when I did hit, I just didn't hit well. It was poor showing from my part. And MacLeod takes it. So then we move on to game number 3 for the first time in the tournament. Welcome to round 3 of round 3, the semi-final deciding match. So this is the hideout map. It's very similar to arenas, except obviously you're all in the middle rather than the edges, and you get palisade instead of stone walls. So it has very different strategies. But you do get very safe wood, as you do in arenas. This time I am playing as the Sicilians, although I've clicked on the wrong person. I am playing as the Sicilians. Sicilia, si. I like the Sicilians quite a lot. I just seem to have a bias towards Italy, really. MacLeod is this time in red, and he's playing as the Mongols. He's on my southern border. And away to the east is my ally Kaelin, playing as the Mayans. Mayans, obviously, an archer civ, and that's one of the few things that they really do. That's their primary and main strength. They are a very good archer civ. And lastly, Cyan, the Persians. So, Cyan is up against Kaelin, and I am up against MacLeod. And we're playing as Sicily. So everyone starts getting their eco up. Let's speed through that. We don't need to watch everyone the way that people collect their deer or farm their sheep or whatever they do. MacLeod, obviously the main threat here. He's the one that we are most cautious of and that we want to try and kill again. Now, Cyan did attack us last time, so we're cautious of that this time. But he did only send unupgraded scouts, and my town centres and castles were able to deal with them. So again, we're going to try and focus on MacLeod. Let's get him out of the game. Annoyingly, they've swapped colours again. So this time MacLeod is red. And Kaelin in blue away on the northern side. So Kaelin rushes up to the feudal age. I and MacLeod are just a few turns behind. Kaelin is going to go into archers and see what he can do. See if he can harass. And well, you'll see what I'm going to try and do. My villagers move forward. We've scouted out MacLeod's base. We move right up to his gate and we drop down a donjon. Don Juan Triumphant. We drop down 2 donjons. The first one, which we see that no one can see us and there are no towers around, gives protection to the villagers. They then move forward and drop a second one. At this point, MacLeod immediately starts building another wall behind his starting previous wall. Kaelin then sends his troops over to me so that we can try and 2v1 against MacLeod. He doesn't bother with military in his own base, and his archery range is in my base. With the donjon down, we then start pushing in to sergeants. 2 donjons in. MacLeod then makes it to the castle age. It's now very important that we actually do something with this attack. MacLeod has walled himself in. He's put down a watchtower, and the line moves forward. We build another donjon with the villagers and the sergeants combined, and then we try and get through the wall. All the while, of course, MacLeod is denying himself troops. He's denying himself space. And my donjons kill a couple of villagers. The sergeants head out there to scout, see what they can see. And MacLeod is under pressure already. 3 donjons in his base and a little group of sergeants. We move to take down the palisade wall, and we do manage. We then move in and take down the tower and drop another donjon on that eastern side, all the while supported by Kaelin's little group of archers, and he's got, he's got 1 Eagle Scout in there as well. Are the resources that we are expending, this is the greater meta question one has to ask oneself, are the resources that we're expending to keep up this pressure fewer in number than the resources being used by MacLeod to hold us back? MacLeod is desperately trying to gather all the resources as quickly as he can. With our troops right on his border, right on his wall, his villagers are just trying to stay away from our troops, for one, and are desperate to just maintain, use up the resources that are behind. For very good reason, because he's now building a castle to defend himself as well. Swan then sends a watchtower forward to try and harass Kaelin, but the fight in the south continues, and the castle does go up. So the horde of villagers on stone does achieve what it needs to. And one of my donjons go down. Donjons, remember, are only slightly better than watchtowers in the earliest tier. You'll see they only have an extra 100 health. And now that he's upgraded to watchtowers, they have actually less health. So it's imperative that I get up to the castle age to get that one-off boost that my donjons get when I hit the castle age. At the moment, my towers now, whilst the donjons look fantastic, they are only slightly better than a watchtower. They don't do very much damage, as noted by the fact that they're taking an age to kill that villager. But they are sergeant producing. That's one of their key benefits. Kaelin then cycles back around and hits him in the southern side to try and deny his escape route. And unfortunately, I don't pay attention and my mangonel goes down. The sergeant goes in to try and finish it off and he repairs it, the bastard. This buys me time in my eco to try and desperately catch up. The sergeant and donjon push is quite resource intensive. And because I'm not very good at the game, it's even more intensive for me than it is for others. Science plan at the moment then is to watchtower rush Kaelin. I'm not sure why, but that's what he's decided to do to assist. I don't know if MacLeod... Something that I did wonder, and I do wonder in these games that you're seeing, is does MacLeod at any point tell Scion what he should or shouldn't do? Because I can't imagine that MacLeod said, yes, go and attack his base with watchtowers only. That's going to work. So I don't think they were communicating is the point I'm trying to make. Whereas Kaelin and I were. We planned... The strategy that you've seen unfold before you was, of course, premedicated. And we obviously planned it. I have a few sergeants trying to maintain pressure, trying to keep MacLeod pinned. And we've got another donjon. Well, we lost another donjon, but we got one up on the eastern side there. And we moved through to try and hit the market. We're just trying to take anything we can that will make MacLeod suffer, that will force him to have to do something, build more resources, use more resources, sorry, anything at all, really. And also, all the while at home, desperately trying to get myself up to the castle age, which we are now on our way to. Which will give us, as I say, my little boost to my donjon, so that just hitting the castle age is a boost enough. because at the moment they are really not doing very well at all. And that Mangonel and Mangudai gathering is enough to really disrupt my donjons. We lose another donjon inside the city to a ram as the farms spread out further. Kaelin then turns his attention back home to deal with Sion's incursion, but has also interestingly started hoarding... Oh no, MacLeod has started gathering stone wherever he can get it. As another donjon goes down. We then start gathering some sergeants to stop the rams taking down more donjons. We'll hover over a donjon as we hit age up so you can see what it does. We get 500 extra HP as a standard just by hitting the castle age. We do manage to take down the market, which means that MacLeod at the moment can't trade any resources. He's going to have to build another market. And we move forward with some sergeants to deny the new farms that he's just built. And we put donjons down where we can. MacLeod then comes back on a retributive strike to hit our stoneworkers. But of course, our donjons now do relatively well, but it's whether or not we can improve them and continue building our eco. Can we keep up this pressure? If MacLeod is let live for too long, we can't really put him down. His whole eco is now outside the hideout and desperately gathering these trees. And the reason I say desperately is because of how many lumberjacks he has on that forest. He needs wood, and he needs it bad. He needs it bad. The scout cavalry of Sion manages to do a little surprise attack on me. But again, we managed to get the villagers into the town centre for the most part. And that kills a lot of the scout cavalry, which distracts my attention annoyingly. And MacLeod pushes some villagers forward to try and reclaim his lands. My donjon's still covering that northern side as my sergeants do try to kill some villagers, but it's not really all that successful. And we then start putting down some stables as well. The Sicilians do get slightly better cavalry than most, unless paladins are involved, because we don't get paladins, but we do get better cavaliers than most people get. We put a stone wall up to cover our shame, and Sion can't get through again. Sion's own watchtowers and attacks on Kaelin have stalled. As MacLeod moves forward to try and build a castle to deny our movement between our base and our forward base. He gets the castle down on the hill, and then he moves his troops through there to start gathering wood. So, Kaelin and I, now the plan has rather come unhinged. Our donjons are no longer actually really doing anything, and there's a castle now stopping us moving freely between our lands. The Mangudai return to hit me, and they rather successfully deny my farm eco for some time. And we then put up a stone wall to deny that. The little base that we have here still manages to deny that northern line, but not really doing anything too great. We've got a few knights, but nothing really there. University for MacLeod. Kaelin, you will note, has now hit the Imperial Age, so he's used the aggression we've put against MacLeod to level up as fast as he can. Well, not as fast as he can, but to get up quickly. And I'm still now just desperately trying to recoup. I'm trying to recover from the losses of earlier. I gather a load of sergeants in a sort of last-ditch attempt, and we move out to hit this castle, because if that castle goes down, we could very well have taken much of this eco out of the game. But I don't send enough sergeants. He moves his villagers back to repair it. It's a whole thing, and it does not go very well at all. You'll note Sion now actually has troops outside of Kaelin's base, so Kaelin has to deal with that. He moves through to shut down the castle, and then he charges off to fight back. Sion's military is all in Kaelin's base. He's got a couple of elephants and a few scouts, a few knights there, of course, but it's just not enough for what Kaelin actually holds there. And I start preparing to defend my own base, accepting that this area is probably lost to me. But has it done enough? Have I done enough eco damage to MacLeod to push him back? Now, if you look at the scores, of course, no. MacLeod is dominating score-wise. Once again, and he's considerably higher in score than myself. But Kaelin is able to move through and, in essence, shut Sion completely out of the game. He takes down Sion's villagers there, and he really has him over a cosh. As the battle lines are drawn outside of MacLeod's base. MacLeod starts trebbing down my last few donjons, and I lose all the momentum from my earlier attack. But I have got a castle, and obviously we've got the donjon for protection. I am now on my way to the Imperial Age, so again, once we hit that in a moment, the donjon will improve once again. So it will be better. 97, 98, 99... 2,475, and there's the little boost that we get again. Similar to our sergeants and donjons both get instant boosts when they hit each age. So you get little spikes of damage as the Sicilians. Kaelin has now decided that the better course of action is if I can hold MacLeod again, like in round 1, in game 1, then he will just remove Scion from the game and we just won't have that Thorn in potentially hitting us in the back. MacLeod moves in to try and save Scion because he needs the distraction. Obviously, game 1 is still fresh in his mind and he knows that he needs Scion there to distract us so that he can do the damage and do the killing. I get some skirmishers out and we start... The war of attrition can begin. Scion, very, very much removed from many threats there. He's got a few villagers there, but his base is just taken out of the game. MacLeod and I then start trading blows, and he takes down my castle, and I do not have very many troops at all to help defend that. The Mangudai move in to start taking out my buildings, and the donjon falls as well. Things are looking a touch bleak. So we start building a barracks line. If they're going to come at us with cavalry, then we shall rebut them with halberdiers. My initial forward base is quite quickly removed. Alas and alack. Sion's base is totally taken out of the game, but his northern section there manages to continue existing. And you'll note MacLeod has just walled himself in a very peculiar wall line there. But he's walled himself in, denying access to that eastern side, as his forces then push in. But Kaelin's then able to switch focus, and his troops come out to meet him. And together we then hold the line. His trebs don't come forward, so my castle assists, forcing his army to push back a little, which allows me time to buy and trade up my spam. It's time for trash. The trebs then do move forward, and they start taking out the barracks to deny the pikemen. Kaelin then floods forward. He uses a siege ram to take out the wall in MacLeod's eastern side, and he sends his eagle warriors into MacLeod's eco. So Kaelin and myself push back in the north, and Kaelin then breaks into the eco in the east as well. It was only a matter of time. He then sends a few harassers to go and deal with Sion's remaining troops there. But Sion's eco is now depleted. His forces have pushed out of my base, and Scion is out of the game. Scion hasn't resigned or been killed yet, but he is now out of the game. He'll never come back into this. My forces reclaim the lands that we've lost. We push forward. We get another siege works up. We've got a trebuchet of our own. Yes, we'll fight back, he says. We'll fight back. We put a castle around the edge there to try and make use of a choke point here, and a second castle goes up further forward as well. As the Sicilians, we build castles faster than anyone, I think I'm right in saying. Only the Spanish come close, but they don't beat us. We build castles and town centres in twice the normal speed, whereas I think the Spanish only get a 30% bonus to their building speed, if memory serves. So that's another thing that the Sicilians can do. Kaelin now shifts his focus away to the east to continue putting pressure on the eco there, as my force then moves through in the western edge, and we bring up the trebs to take out the castle. We don't defend it, and it dies. But our siege rams then start making short work of what we see before us. Kaelin sends some troops in to assist again, but his eastern army starts to gather and doesn't move in just yet, as my forces start pushing back. I then use that opportunity after building a few more town centres to call a crusade, which gives me just another little boost of a load of sergeants to call forward. And the sergeants are incredibly tanky. They are much, much tankier than a champion, and they have excellent pierce armour. Now, obviously, mine are only sergeants. Excuse me. So they're not as good as elite sergeants. But the point I'm trying to make is that sergeants actually fare relatively well under fire from buildings, and particularly something like a Mangudai. So the sergeants can soak up the damage of the Mangudai whilst the skirmishers kill them. And that was the plan. But of course, it is with Kaelin's then second push that MacLeod realises he can't hold both sides. And it would seem that it did pay dividends. And my initial attack using the Sicilian Donjon Rush was successful. It's the second time you've seen the Sicilian Donjon Rush in this playthrough. And there we go. After the first round that had 3 matches, Gallo and Kaelin proceed to the final. And you will see yet again that Kaelin is absolutely carrying me, dragging, kicking and screaming to the final. And this was no different. So there we go. Now, next time, just to hype it up, I am going to show you the other semi-final. So there are only 2 matches left. Myself and Kaylin are now confirmed for the final, but I think it's better if I show you who we are up against. So next week is the next semi-final, which doesn't have me or Kaylin in it. And you can then see who is going to be our competitor in the final the week after that. So if you've enjoyed this thus far, stay tuned for the other 2 videos in the series, and then otherwise diplomacy matches will come back after that, because I'm just loving, to be honest, if I'm being honest, I'm loving something that isn't DAC on the channel for once, that people also seem to be enjoying, and praise the heavens. But anyway, for now, that's your lot. So thank you very much for tuning in, if indeed you have. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope that if you enjoy this kind of thing, you might join us in the Discord down in the description and come and play some Age of Empires with us. But until we speak again, Nevair Neden Pedamad Melonin, and farewell.